Louise, we are now live. Your blurb, Louise.
A minute. Yeah, okay. Good morning and welcome to this morning's meeting of the Licensing Act Subcommittee. I'm Louise Prince, Solicitor advising the committee this morning. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and video and audio of the meeting will be publicly available on the Council's website after the meeting. First item on the agenda is to nominate the chair for today's hearing. If I can have nominations, please.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Broomhall, yeah?
I'll second it.
Thank you,
Right.
Councillor Broomhall.
Thank you very much. Before we start everything, I'd like to go around the table and introduce people that are here. I'm Peter Broomhall, Councillor for Wen.
I'm Kevin Pardy, Councillor for Sundorne.
The other committee members.
Mike Isherwood, Councillor for Oswestry West.
So we'll go around. Ross?
Ross O'Neill, Licensing Officer.
Tim Ward, Committee Officer.
Simon Cranmer, Facilities Manager for Historic England at the Flaxmill Maltings. Alistair Godfrey from Historic England, I'm the project lead for the Flaxmill project.
Alex Bruce from Berries, and I'm representing Historic England on this.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2, which is disclosable pecuniary interests. Members are reminded to disclose any pecuniary interests in any matters to be discussed which is not included in the register of interest. If, following the declaration of interest, any party feels a member decisions making may be prejudicial, they should make it known. The hearing may then need to be adjourned so the committee can be reappointed. Has anybody got? Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Chair. I no interest, but I just, for the interest of clarity, want to say that I have known Mr. Cranmer in the past in his capacity as Operations Manager at Oswestry Town Council. Purely professional since he left. I've had no contact with Mr. Cranmer whatsoever.
Right, that's fine. So we move on to Chairman's statement. The committee has read and considered the representations and evidence submitted by all parties in relation to this application. Therefore, presentation should be succinct and kept to a brief summary of key points. There is no need to read out written representations or reiterate the details of written representations at great length. The chairman will intervene if it is felt that presentations are becoming overlong, are going off track, or do not relate to the application being considered. The procedure for the hearing is provided on the tables for you. In general, we will aim to keep to this order of business to ensure that the timely and fair conduct of the hearing for all parties. If it is felt necessary during the course of the hearing, the committee may make the decision to deviate from the procedure. This is at the committee's discretion. There are opportunities throughout the hearing for each party to ask questions of others following the presentations. Please ensure that you use the opportunity to ask questions only and not to make any further points or statements. It is for the chair to decide if questions are appropriate and relate to the matter in hand. Any behaviour considered to be disruptive by the chair may lead to parties being asked to leave the hearing. Does anybody have any questions regarding the hearing process or how the hearing will be conducted? No, you're fine with that? So the next item 5 is the licence officer presents his report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. I'm Public Protection Officer working within the licensing team and responsible for today's report. So you are here to consider a new premises licence application applied for by Simon Cranmer of Historic England for the dye house and shop at Shrewsbury Flaxmill Maltons in Spring Gardens. You will notice on the Appendix A and B are a map and photographs, so I've tried to set the scene for you all. The Flax Mill is a newly restored industrial mill, a former Maltons which has been transformed into a new visitor experience, which is to include the dye house and the shop, where the applicant would like to sell alcohol meant for consumption within the dye house and for the consumption of the premises when purchased from the shop. The shop is within the Grade 1 listed main building, while the dye house is separate next to the main building. The building is set within a large grounds located by both residential and other commercial properties. You'll see on the report as well, Appendix C and D of the report is the application and the plan, or plans, because obviously multiple locations, which detail the timings and licensable areas applied for by the applicant. During consultation, trading standards and the police submitted representations. The applicant has been assisted by Alex Bruce of Berries, who agreed to the proposed conditions set by both authorities. They are within section 6 of my report, so you'll see what conditions have been agreed, and if granted today, they will be put on the licence. No representations are outstanding by any of the authorities. However, during consultation, there were 3 other persons, namely Dawn Carter, Rebecca Herbert-Lade and Jenny Herbert-Lade. They all put representations forward. Although not entirely linked to the 4 licence objectives, there is concern of noise, loitering and crime within their representations. Due to this, they have been given the benefit of the doubt, as per the 182 guidance, to allow them to amplify their concerns with you today. Appendix E is a map of the premises compared to the site of the flax mill, while F, G and H are the 3 representations received by the licensing authority in full. All 3 representations are still outstanding. So to clarify the application for you, we've got the dye house. They've applied for Monday to Saturday 8 till 10 o'clock at night for alcohol, and Sunday 8 till 8 o'clock at night. They would open 30 minutes longer for a lower drinking up period, while the shop is to be Monday to Sunday 10 till 5, and that's the same hours as the opening hours, as in off sales only. Only alcohol is being applied for on the application, as you'll have noticed, no regulated entertainment. So just to clarify why you're here today, you are here to consider and determine the application. To do this, you must give appropriate weight to the steps that are necessary to promote the 4 licence objectives, any representations, the 182 guidance of the Licensing Act 2003 and Shropshire Council's licensing policy 2019 to 2024. You then may grant the application in full or in part, subject to such conditions deemed necessary and appropriate to the 4 licence objectives, refused if deemed appropriate for the 4 licence objectives, and you must also consider your decision. Your decision must be justified and you must provide supporting evidence after to all involved parties today. And this decision can be appealed within 21 days of persons receiving that decision. That's it for me for now, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. Right, is there any questions for the licensing officer? First, responsible authorities? No. Other persons? No. The applicant, have you got any questions for them? No? Has the committee got any questions? Want to ask them? Ross? We've read the report and quite happy with what we've got down there. Applicant presents the case. This is an opportunity for the applicant to summarise their case for new premises licence applications, variation to premises licence applications, temporary event notices or personal licence. The applicant should cover what their application is for and why they do not feel the application presented a risk in terms of undermining the licence objectives. Applicants for a review of a premises licence should use the opportunity to explain why they felt a review was necessary and any steps they feel need to be taken to ensure the premises does not undermine the licensing objectives. Any additional relevant points can be made at this stage, but no new evidence should be introduced. I don't know whether you've got anything to bring forward.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat Ross, of course. He's kind of covered the main basis to the times and everything, and has set the kind of picture for the whole venue itself. I would kind of discuss with the representatives kind of, and go against them, but of course then they're not here, so it seems a little bit trivial to kind of talk about what their representations mean, because I'll just be talking about it and they won't have anything to come back on, really. I mean, a lot of the representations were kind of personalised, a lot of it wasn't material either. They focused in on the current crime rates, mainly in relation to Diverington, etc., which isn't related to the flax mill in any way, and as such can't be afforded any weight. In relation to car parking, etc., but that isn't material either, and is a problem with highways, etc., for planning. In relation to people leaving, so public nuisance, basically we already have protocol in place for that, we have signs, etc., and that's set out within the application. Also, it should be noted that, of course, Jennifer and Rebecca are part of the same household, so a lot of what they say is repetitious as well. So, I'm happy with that.
Right. We now have questions for the applicant, but seeing as there's not
Chair, I think Mr. Cranmer wants
oh,
to.
you want to speak.
Sorry, can I just make a couple of clarifications? So in terms of the sales from the shop, those are for off sales only from the gift shop for the exhibition. And as such, their products are related to the history of the mill and the local area. So we're selling beers from Salopian Ales because it used to be a maltings, and that's a good product that ties into the story of the place. And we're selling local wine. We'd like to sell from Hencott, but they didn't have sufficient stock. So we're selling a wine from near Montgomery, so supporting local business in that way. In terms of sales from the dye house, that would only be in connection to events there. That's not a regular setup. So those would be community events and private hires of the sort we've had in the past, things like community theatre. So those would all be regulated under an event management plan, and we'd make sure that those were properly staffed and properly secured. The site itself has a licensed security officer on site the whole time it's open. And that's one of the things that's written into our risk assessment for opening, and also satisfies the police's condition for CCTV evidence to be available for them to scrutinise at any time. So it's the security officer, along with a member of my team, who will provide them with that. So just a little bit of background there as to how it would work in terms of those two outlets. Thank you.
Right. Does anybody else in the applicants want to speak?
Just say, I just want to add really just add what Simon said. Really is the focus of our activities for the Dye House will be on community events. We've run events in partnership with a partner organisation, the Friends, over the past 5 to 10 years, and they've been run successfully with no incidents at all. We've managed them very successfully, and I don't have much more to add than that. Than we have a track record of very thorough management of events on site.
Thank you. Right, the licensing officer, do you want to ask any questions?
Just 2 questions, if I can. Noticed, Alex, obviously you've mentioned the representations. You mentioned the loitering, which obviously you mentioned about signs, the crime. You said it's linked to Diverington. Could you just one of you is go into how you think from the representations about the noise that was raised and how you police it, how you deal with it, just to kind of help.
I mean, someone else wants to one. I mean, naturally, it's limited to about 300 people anyway due to fire safety. So in any case, that's going to minimise the noise itself because there won't be too many people there. Ultimately, they're also complaining about noise at the end of the night. Of course, we've got a half an hour period in which people will be slowly leaving. This will minimise it because they're not all leaving all at once, and naturally it'll filter out a little bit before that anyway, in any case. And also we've got clear and legible notices when leaving, which tell everyone to exit, kind of without making too much noise as such. It's very clear, yeah,
That's fine.
to say.
Alistair, you picked up on you've had 5 to 10 years events, no issues managed well. So in relation to the noise, there's been no noise complaints for those events previously.
None that we're aware of.
And then just the last question, just to clarify, obviously you've applied for alcohol. What's these events? What is the kind of, what are the community events and what entertainment is taking place? Obviously you've applied for alcohol, but what's the other kind of entertainment alongside it?
So it'll be mainly kind of art exhibitions, theatres as such. Generally things which are quite quiet anyway by their nature. They're not huge nightclub events of any sort. These are just sophisticated events which people will come to, and should also address that we want it on and off the premises. So if there's any kind of offcuts as such as wine, they have some left at the end of the night, they can take that with them.
No more questions, thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you. We have responsible authorities and other persons, but we haven't any here today. So have the committee got any questions for the applicant?
I'd just like to ask a question, if that's okay. Does Historic England operate any other similar venues to this? And have there been any reported issues at any of those? And just to clarify, so all the events that have been taking place up till now have been alcohol-free events?
No, we actually have temporary event notices.
Right.
So up until now, we've actually been functioning and there's been no issues raised in that time, which is a huge weight in our favour.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Historic England, it's quite an unusual site for us. Most of our sites are offices. So since English Heritage and Historic England were divided up, was it 2018? Something like that. All the properties have been managed by English Heritage. So they have a big events business, but at our properties, it's unusual that we've retained the historic building ourselves. So I think probably the closest comparison is Port Cumberland down in Portsmouth has a distillery on it, and they have small events there without issues. But I think they're the nearest neighbours, about a mile and a half away. So it's a different sort of thing. But certainly there's a lot of infrastructure in terms of supporting us, and the site's been kind of well set up for managing these sales. So a lot of investment in getting the offer right, and I'm confident with my experience, having worked for English Heritage National Trust, licensed holder for Oswestry Town Council in the past, that I can manage them safely and securely.
Yeah, thank you. You're asking for a licence 7 days a week for the dive. But from what you're saying, if you're using it for only events, it won't be open every day. Is that what you're saying? So it might be, once a fortnight or something like that, depending on what's requested. Thank you.
Right. So any no more questions?
Chair, I wonder, following this, I'm not permitted to ask questions, but it might be I have a pertinent question for now, if that's possible.
Yeah.
On the representations, just in relation to noise, 2 of them, I'm just checking whether all 3 of them have referred to events that you've held and there has been issues with noise and loud music playing. Are you aware of that, and the events that you've held, have you had loud music playing?
It's not. I think it's probably best if Alistair. So I only started in March. It's probably best if Alistair, having been to those events, kind of talks a bit more about them with his experience. Is that okay, Alistair?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. As I said, as far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of any issues associated with noise. We've had obviously had construction work going on site, noisy construction work going on site for the past 5 to 10 years as well. So I'm not aware of any loud events with music. Most of the events have been community events held by our partner organisations, which have been entertainment, barbecues, this sort of thing, to get people together. There's been theatre there. There's been cinema held there. I'm not aware of any. We're very conscious of the limitations of the Dye House itself. We know that it's a historic building. It doesn't have sound insulation on it. So to date, we and our partner organisations have authorised and held events that keep noise to an absolute minimum.
Thank you.
So there may have been, I said, comments by people about it, but I'm not aware of those, to be perfectly frank.
And you're not aware of any events where loud music has been played?
No, we've made that absolutely categorically clear that we've been very respectful. We're very conscious of, obviously, the nearest neighbour is probably about sort of 100 feet away from the back of the building.
Thank you.
Right. Well, item 9 is responsible authorities present their case, but we haven't got any here today, so we'll move on to 10, which is questions of the responsible authorities, but we can't do that. So 11, other persons who have made representation present their case. They're not here today, so we can't question them. So we'll move on to the closing remarks from each party. I don't know whether you have any. The licensing officer first.
Just closing, but obviously it's no regular entertainment has been applied for, so I'm sure the applicant's fully aware, but obviously each event needs to be assessed and whether or not a 10 needs to be applied for any regular entertainment, because obviously it's any alcohol that we're looking at today. And then for yourselves, Chair and committee members, I just want to repeat again what you're here today for. So it's to consider this application, give appropriate weight to the steps that are necessary to the 4 licence objectives, the representations, the 182 guidance of the Licensing Act of Shropshire Council's policy 19 to 24. You then may grant the application in full or in part, subject to such conditions deemed necessary and appropriate, or you can refuse if deemed appropriate for the 4 licence objectives. And again, your decision must be justified and provide supporting evidence. After all involved will get to see that, and also they can appeal the decision within 21 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Whether the applicant wants to make closing remarks, or you're quite happy with what's gone forward? Yeah. Right, thank you. Any necessary comments, clarifications from the legal officer? Nothing from that. So we will summarise all the points we've heard today, statements, and then we'll process for deliberation. But while we do that, they have to leave the room, don't they? And it is clear a decision will not be made on the same day. The Chair will explain that at this point. It is likely a decision will be made the same day. Parties may wait outside and we call back in to hear the decision. There is no requirement for parties to stay and hear the decision. If any circumstances, the decision will also be sent in writing within 5 working days. So if you would like to leave us, we'll make a decision now and then call you back in. That's all right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.